Hello and welcome to the Bald Truth Review, episode 10. And this week I want to start with the Leveson report. This is obviously the investigation that was carried out by Lord Justice Leveson into the activities of the accredited media. Now, the main finding of Lord Leveson's report is that he's saying that we simply must have a fully independent regulatory body to ensure decent standards are adhered to within the media. Now, of course, freedom of speech is a difficult issue, but surely when you've got the power that the newspapers do have, being held to account and having a body to monitor that has teeth is not too much of a step to take. It's ironic, isn't it, that here in Jersey, when we're seeing our royal court abused with our attempts, public taxpayers' money being involved, to shut down and stifle the freedom of speech of citizens' media, that what informed all these events with Leveson was the accredited media, professional journalists. These are the people who have spread lies, falsehoods. They've effectively ruined many people's lives. Are the Jersey media above all this? Well, no. Look no further than the BDO review, which I carried out as chairman with a sub-panel. This completely trashed the reputation of former police chief Graham Power and Lenny Harper. It reported complete falsehoods. It said all money had been wasted, £7.5 million had been wasted. There was more emphasis on what people had had for dinner than the serious issue of child abuse which was being investigated. And as I say, isn't it ironic that even John Gripton, the managing editor of BBC Jersey, has commented that some of the worst insults and behaviour he's witnessed is actually published on the Channel Online website and the Jersey Evening Post's website. Not citizens' media, who generally carry out their work to a much higher standard. They check their facts. They have to check their facts because they're basically ordinary people. They can't hide behind big companies and insurance policies. So let's just remember, everyone's been waiting for this Leveson report. Here in Jersey, Scrutiny Chairman, Deputy Tracy Valois, said that her panel, her committee, was going to wait until the report was published and then they would comment on whether it was worth investigating an ombudsman for Jersey to ensure our state media adhere to reasonable standards of decency and fair reporting. So it's over to you, Deputy Valois. Now, the Leveson inquiry and unfavourable or very favourable coverage within newspapers leads me to the next issue, and that's Constable Sadie Renard of St Saviour. Now, this week saw some very favourable coverage for the constable, who, as most viewers will know, is a staunch supporter of the establishment. Now, Constable Renard was talking about the state's pay rise. The pay rise that nearly all members have said they're not going to take. I'm not going to take the pay rise. But my concern with the issue is this. In a very large, and there was a lovely photo to go with it too, I should mention, in an article, Constable Renard said that she wasn't here to get Christmas cards from fellow politicians. She was here to represent her constituents. Well, I can say I completely agree with the constable. But let's just consider a moment. Before this proposition was brought, how has Constable Renard been representing her constituents? In the 12 months she's been a politician, how many oral questions has she lodged? How many written questions has she brought? How many amendments has she lodged? How many propositions has she brought forward? How many debates has she contributed to? The answer, I'm afraid, is nil. Indeed, Constable Renard has only spoken 3 times. Every one of those times, the language has been unparliamentary. She's called people lovey or dear. So, yes, we are there to represent our constituents. But before members should start telling other people what they should earn, shouldn't the constable actually be doing some work? And now it's time for the leak of the week. What's the leak of the week this week? Well, it arises from what's known as FACTA, basically the US government and their strategy that is to be implemented, requesting that they can access all information to US citizens holding accounts and monies in tax havens or financial centres like Jersey. We've read a lot about this in the state media this week here in Jersey, saying that consultations, negotiations are taking place to try and head off the move from the UK government to be granted the same access. Well, I can tell you the leak of the week is that no consultation or negotiations are taking place. What's actually happened, and I have this directly from a contact in Westminster, is Jersey have been told, you will comply or there will be serious constitutional problems. Should any reader, any viewer doubt the type of consultation that's been taking place, just consider the message that we heard from our government via the state media about fulfilment. Our government was told what would happen with fulfilment. They're being told what will happen if they don't comply with the UK government on this issue of FACTA. I ask viewers, is it any surprise then that Sir Philip Balash has certainly been pushing this drive to go independent since at least 2007? Now, it might seem a very attractive route to take. It might seem an answer to our problems, but the fact is, should we ever go independent, it will lead to Jersey's ruination. Now, scrutiny featured in Jersey's state media this week. On the BBC Jersey Political Hour, there was a recording played of Deputy Jeff Southern. And Deputy Southern, who, as viewers will know, has been a stalwart of scrutiny since its inception, really. He was putting forward the view that scrutiny currently was just full of establishment lobby fodder. Now, this was interesting because the 2 people that the BBC had brought in to discuss this, far from 2 different members putting forward opposing views, it was the Deputy of St Peter, Christina Moore, and the Deputy of St Martin, Steve Luce. And they were basically saying that scrutiny was doing a great job, that it was making a difference. Well, it was Professor Adrian Lee who told us that you show me a scrutiny that's ineffective and I'll show you a dictatorship. Is he right? Well, I worked a full 3 years on scrutiny, and indeed I was proud of some of the reviews that I was involved with. The BDO review into the appalling misrepresentation of what actually happened with the financial management of Operation Rectangle, the Vulnerable Children Services review, the investigation into the Prison Board of Visitors. Like others, I put many, many hours into those reviews, and after those 3 years, I came away with the view that scrutiny in its present form is nothing more than a legitimisation of the one-party state. Scrutiny as it exists has no teeth. It isn't the check and balance that it was intended. And viewers should just remember that once again, why this has come about is because we cherry-picked the clothier recommendations. The scrutiny process was meant to be included within a party political system. Indeed, it needs to be there that way for it to work. At present, scrutiny isn't even a critical friend. It's just a friend. Now, last week, viewers will recall that I mentioned how we'd be starting a new segment, the Bald Truth Review, a segment called Treats for Trolls. Well, after that announcement, we were actually contacted by a notorious Jersey internet troll who offered to come onto the show, provided we could conceal his identity. So obviously we've been quite happy to do that. We've concealed his appearance, we've altered his voice, and we've agreed to give him a false name. So I say to viewers of the Bald Truth Review, please welcome Don to the show. Now Don, this trolling is actually not very nice at all, is it? It's about leaving hurtful, anonymous comments on people's blogs and websites. And as it happens, I notice you're in a lovely silver cloak. Could you just give people a little twirl there? Yeah, very nice. And you've got 2 empty lager cans. So my question is, what's in this for you, Don? Well, I don't know if viewers actually understood that, but what Don said was when he's trolling in his darkened room with his smoke machine, it gives him a feeling of power. It gives him a feeling that he's somebody instead of the social inadequate that he really is. And he also said, interestingly, that he finds it very, very funny. Well, Don, let me put it to you. If you actually go to the police, data protection, everybody, they'll tell you that this trolling is actually very, very serious. And far from being funny, let's just read out a comment that you've admitted that you sent to the Bald Truth Review. Now this was about Mr. Emil Collins, who died at age 98 a couple of years ago and was described by the Constable of St Helier as an absolute stalwart of the local political scene. Indeed, a man who'd fought and stood up for his views right since the Nazi occupation, when those views could have cost him his life. Yet, what did you say about him, Don, anonymously? You said that Emil wasn't a legend at all. He was just an effing 90-year-old Jeff Southern. Just an effing... Well, on that note, Don, I think I'll say goodbye. You know, viewers, we can make fun of these issues, these serious issues like trolling, but the fact is, trolling, these hurtful comments, these anonymous comments, have actually ruined people's lives. They've even led to vulnerable people committing suicide. So if you do know a troll like Don, please do the right thing. Get in touch with the authorities. Remember, get involved, because if you don't do politics, politics will do you.